morning, Stitch Roadies. Thank you for stopping by. I very much appreciate the company today. If you are new to this channel, this is a channel about life and cross-stitch combined. A little bit of this and that. And thank you if you've been hanging in there with me for a while. I do appreciate if you'd hit the thumbs up and subscribe. If you're not, that helps the algorithm on the channel keep pushing out to a broader audience. And let me tell you, the more people that join us here, the more I learn. On Mother's Day, I received a bouquet of flowers from G, and they are still going strong. It's amazing. I don't know what they put in this water, but let me tell you, the reason I say you want to embrace this community and read the comments is because I had mentioned that I was trying to figure out how to preserve the 2 roses that were in that bouquet. And I remember, you know, in the old days I used to flatten them in a book and stuff, but I had seen that there was some way to actually preserve dry a flower, and I was just curious about that. And sure enough, in the comments I was given a link and learned about this stuff. So I ordered it from Amazon, and I found a jar, and I poured the stuff in there around the rose, and it is drying in this jar. It's supposed to stay there for 5 days, so we'll see. Next time I'll show it to you. But there's a lot of support and information and questions asked and questions answered by other people in this community. And that's kind of, I think for the most part, most Flosstubers, I mean, it doesn't make sense, because you think that someone who would sit here and just talk has got to be an extrovert. But in reality, many of us have that introverted quality, and that's what makes it easy to talk to a camera rather than a room full of people. I kind of stress about that. But I always have a good time because I was raised by 2 extroverts. And, you know, in a conversation I had, I have a feeling that my dad might have been an introvert. But like me, I'm like him. I know how to function in the extroverted world. So today here in the greater Portland, Oregon area, that's where I'm located, it has been 2 days of overcast skies. It almost feels like pre-winter. The weather's been in the low 60s. It's been sweatshirt weather after last week where we had 80s. Yeah, not accepting the weather. There's, like my mom used to say, there's nothing you can do about it, so why complain about it? But I am really longing for the warmer days to come back. My yard is just in full bloom, but I've seen very few hummingbirds. It might be just a little too chilly for them. My raspberry bush, raspberry is gone because of the hot weather in the last couple of weeks. It's gone bonkers, and it is covered in bees. The bees are just loving it, and I love that I have a yard that helps the bees. Yes, we like to help the bees. So I've been doing a lot of different things, but I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping first, not to bore you. But I've noticed that in the last couple of giveaways that I have done, I've gotten no response from the winners. And so I'm going to rethink that whole thing because I don't have the time or the inclination to figure out how to hunt people down, to message them, all that. I just feel like it's like a give and take relationship, and life, I know, I realize that life gets busy and sometimes you just forget. So I'm not going to like repost or anything like that. If you see your name in a previous giveaway, you're finally catching up on watching and you say, oh my gosh, know that I have 2 or 3 items left here from previous giveaways. Now with this giveaway that I'm currently doing, which is with the Yazzie travel bag company, and they are a fabulous fabulous bag, originally designed for travelers, but in the last few years they have been embraced by the craft industry. And you would have seen in that previous video that I showed a lot of different bags that I have, and I was doing for a Yazzie bag giveaway. So the winner, I'm going to give you a choice because I have 2 bags here, and I'm going to give you a choice. I showed the purple one, which was this one, this little case here. But if the winner would prefer to have this bag, which is a case that will hold several things, plus it has 2 different bags within it, I will send this one instead. So you'll get a choice. The winner will be posted at the end of the video. That's what we do. I give the name, the random picker picks a name, I write it down, G makes a little flyer, it's posted at the end. So if you are the winner of the Yazzie bag, your name will show up at the end of this video. And you can email me your choice of bag and your mailing address. I will never ask you for postage. I will never ask you for any personal information. I will never ask you to pay for any deposit or anything. This is my gift and Yazzie's gift to you, to one of you. So try to make it as safe and as enjoyable as possible. Okay, back to the comments. So I showed you the preservative for the roses, and I get all kinds of encouragement. There are some people in different areas that don't have any access to an LNS, or and that is a local needle workshop, or to stitch groups. So pay attention to where these different commenters are located. You might find your next best friend there. I found, I'm going to just keep moving along because I have a lot of little stuff to do here. I found this, and I'm going to Google or YouTube how to block. I have no understanding of how to do that. I know I'm supposed to wet this, and I'm afraid, but this is actually a needle point that I made for my oldest son when he was born. And I put his name on it, and look at that sweet thing. And I want to make it into a pillow. But you can see it's kind of, the canvas is cattywampus. So I'm going to try to Google how to block that. This isn't the way you block it, I know. But I keep wanting to stretch it into the correct shape. And then I'm going to attempt at a circular pillow with piping. I know it sounds like a lot, doesn't it? The process sounds like a lot. But I was moved this week. I was moved in a way I didn't anticipate. I was watching Flosstube, and there were a group of girlfriends who met at the attic, and I just thought, wow, that's genius. You don't, the whole idea of we want to go to all these workshops and we want to experience the event, and it's so disappointing when we didn't make even the wait list. And it's so much fun to go. It is so much fun to go to these, especially when there's a designer affiliated with it that you might love and you want to follow, and there's all that swag that comes with it. So not to discourage you from that, but on Flosstube I started watching a group of girlfriends that just decided to make their own workshop. So they all came from different areas to the attic in Mesa, Arizona, and they stitched and they hung out at the same hotel, and they just had a fun girlfriend time. And I thought, that is genius. That is just genius. Because then it kind of fits your own schedule. But I started with, I think the first one I saw was Brenda and the Cereal Starter. Yeah, because they were there with their girlfriends, and their girlfriends, Lisa Kindred Stitcher and Sue Stanley, they were all giving their feelings and encouragement about this special time with their girlfriends and at being at the attic, which is a bucket list shop. So many shops have closed over the last few years that every shop is a bucket list shop, isn't it? But the attic kind of sets the bar high. Jean, who's been in the business for decades, has a huge collection of samplers and a large store. So I know that on Quilt Roadies, probably if you go onto my Quilt Roadies channel, which is not my Flosstube. My Flosstube is here, Stitch Roadies. I'm starting to sound like I have issues talking about trying to remember my own life. But on Quilt Roadies, that is my YouTube channel that is predominantly about quilting, traveling to quilt stores, and embroidery, and all kinds of other handwork that is not cross-stitch. If you Google Quilt Roadies The Attic, I actually went there and did a video a few years back. So it can give you a sense of what that is like. And now where was I going with this? Well, back to the pillow. Oh my gosh, this is, yeah, I honestly, this is the morning time. Happy hour hasn't even happened. So I want to block this, and I want to make a round pillow with piping. That all is a multi-step process that is going to take dedication and concentration. So what does that have to do with Flosstube in the attic? Well, when I was watching Brenda, the Cereal Starter, and Laura, that sent me to, I watched Sue Stanley. I watched everybody's view of their girlfriend time. But the person that impacted me was someone that I had never seen before. And that's why you kind of want to pay attention to Flosstubers when they say, oh, this is a good one to watch. Because I was unfamiliar. I'm kind of embarrassed because I went down a big rabbit hole about the background and where this person teaches, and so I was blown away. Her name is Katie Strachan, and she is a artistic embroiderer who also cross stitches. But her embroidery was breathtaking. I mean, it's the kind of embroidery that when we're all dead and gone, someone will see it at a museum. It's that gorgeous and perfect, and she is lovely to listen to while you're stitching because she has this very soft, lovely voice. So thank you, Brenda and Laura, for that hunt. But what it did for me was I realized that it's better to go slower and go for a finish that you're proud of or that you love, rather than the chaos that I usually live in. And so when I decide to block this and make this into a pillow, which probably won't be this month because it's a little bit of a busy month for me, I realize that I don't have to like finish it in a day or an hour, that I can look at it as a journey. I don't know, there was something about watching her and her embroidery and what she created that made me think that didn't happen in an afternoon. That took some peace, some do-overs, some being okay, some perfectionism, being satisfied or dissatisfied. It took that whole thing. It was a process. I know I'm going on and on about this, but I suddenly, this thing's been sitting on a counter down on the back porch with me trying to get someone else to do it. And I think that's what I love. That's what I love about YouTube, is that I've learned so much, so much. Okay, so next, what's next? What's next in this wild life? I wanted to show you what will be my next Prairie Schooler Santa. So here is the one I'm working on. This is the 2022 Prairie Schooler Santa. I just think it's so adorable with the penguins. The difference for me is we never in our life, when I was growing up, had a string of lights like the foo-foo Christmas tree with the string of lights that were all the same and the ornaments that were all the same color. Our Christmas tree was like the reindeer threw up on it or something. It was like all the ornaments that we made or that were collected. I still have ornaments that were actually my father's from his childhood. So these, having lights all the same color did nothing for me. And I was lucky because my friend Audrey from Stitchy Witch 42, Flosstube, does a lot of beading, and I wanted multicolored lights. So she brought over colored beads, and I picked out several different, because we always had multicolored lights, and I am going to cross stitch the background in like white and put a multicolored bead all over a green bead, a red bead, a gold bead on top of, and make the string irregular colors. You get to make it what you want. And so here I am working on the parent penguins, and after that my intention is to put SF101, a Pellon product, diffusible interfacing, on the back before I do the beading. And then I'll make it into a pillow. The next Prairie Schooler that I will be starting, and know that there's a couple of hashtags, I'll put the hashtags all below, for Prairie Schooler Santa and hashtag Love My Stitch Sal. This is my next one, and I went through the whole pile, and I felt like this really spoke to this winter and this past year of weather. Every weather system conceivable happened, and so I just want to do this one. So this one will be the next one up, because you know, when you finish a Prairie Schooler, you start a Prairie Schooler. And this one's from 1995, and I always have my Prairie Schoolers in this adorable That's So Kelly. I think she calls it a Bitsy Bob or something like that. But I just love this, because if I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to have to sit and wait for G or whatever, or we're traveling to run errands, I kind of take my stitching with me, because I'm a much more pleasant human being when I do that. A couple of things that I want you to pay attention to if you want to play along, and one is Acorns and Threads, Janine, who is the shop owner extraordinaire, and her fabulous stitching crew. You know, they just enable. And so I'm passing on that virus. In September, I know that there's a handful of people already at the shop that meet for stitching, like Jennifer and Margaret. We're doing a stitch along of the autumn at Hawkrun Hollow. Now, before you go, oh, not a Hawkrun Hollow, and not a stitch along, let me tell you what came out of this discussion. So there was a square that Jeanette Douglas, I believe it was Jeanette Douglas that had done, that was a shop model. I mean, it was at the shop because she had done a class. And it was a perfect square. And she had stitched her, she has these small cards. She had stitched one on each side of the square. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the bottom. Now, I knew that I wouldn't be putting any stitching on the bottom, because if you wanted that to show, then all the ones on the side are upside down. But I thought I could put plain fabric on the bottom and just 4, 5. And I could do it out of this Hawkrun Hollow. Because the bottom line is, there were some of these that didn't appeal to me. And I didn't want to do the whole thing. And isn't that the fun part of cross stitch too, that you get to make it your own? So when I told Janine what I was going to do, it was like, you know those cartoons where smoke comes out? And she was like all about it. So we are going to make a square, like a, it won't be any bigger than this. Can you see that? Can you see that? It's like, what, 6, you got your tape measure? Because these are perfectly square. I know I'm not doing the pig. I don't know. I'm not fond of the pig. I got to do the owls, though. And the turkey, for sure. And, yeah, I'm very excited. So this, if you're interested, Janine has these charts at her shop, and you can join us. And you could either do it all, like if you love it, and you love it, or if you're already doing it, join us. We'll set up a hashtag for it. But if you want to make a box square out of it, that is going to be fun. And then we'll get Jolene, who is a finisher at Acorns and Threads, to teach a class on finishing, or just send it to her. Yeah. So I already have my fabric, and I originally was going to stitch the whole grid around, but I think it was Jennifer that told me, don't do that, because if you're off, you're going to be off the whole time. But now that I'm doing the squares separately, I can get this all kitted up. But this won't be till September, so you have time. You definitely have time. Okay, next. You know, it feels like, oh, that movie. Oh, forget it. I can't, I'm straining my brain too hard. Okay, that was a moment. I had this box that I had purchased probably 3 years back. No, the pandemic. Don't we used to gauge everything by the birth of our children. Now we gauge our lives by the pandemic beginning. So that has to be at least 4 or 5 years ago that I bought this. And from what I understand, he's taken a hiatus from making them, so I'm very happy I have one that I was so insightful. And the lid has a ring that you stitch a cross stitch, and then you do like a flat mount, and you can change it in and out, and then you have your little sewing box. And the pattern that I am doing is this one, Blackbird Designs, and it's on, I believe this was 30 count fabric. I'm doing it in the called for Gentle Arts or DMC, whichever was available. It's a fun stitch, and the best part of reading the comments was someone said this counts for the hashtag fruit salad Sal. Yeah, it's got fruit in it. I also am stitching this is a Primrose Cottage stitches from the Fat Quarter Shop. And I'm counting each one as a finish, and so I'm working on the Hang Your Stockings, and I'm almost done with that particular. And I only have 4 more, so when you think about it, if I do one a month, and I have 4 more, that would be June, July, August, September. I'm way ahead of, I mean, I am shocking myself with my total efficiency. And I think I'm going to finish it in a quilted wall hanging. I think that's what I have decided to do. Yeah, I have to go get one more thing that I forgot to bring here, so take a moment to go to the restroom. Get yourself some chocolate, or let's see, what time is it? Oh, still coffee time. Sorry. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I want everyone to clap for me. Yeah, clap for me. Give me a thumbs up too. I finished Here Be Dragons. I cannot tell you how satisfying that was. There's something more that occurs than just getting to finish and move on to the next thing. A finish of a cross stitch feels like you got a star. That and you know, I started that dry erase board, and it is so cool to just wipe off the whip Here Be Dragon and move it to the finish. So I can't show it to you because it's at the framers. It's at the framers. I just have this moment. It's like that, getting that Oscar. Such a good feeling. So my next dedicated stitch, and what I mean by dedicated stitch is that I am not a monogamous stitcher where I pick one project. It's too restrictive for me in terms of I understand that for those that are monogamous stitchers, there's a peace and a satisfaction when it's done. I have that little bit of component that needs a huge variety to life, and that's not always the best, but you work with what you're given. And at the same time, I envy a monogamous stitcher, so I figured out a way to kind of create somewhat that life for me. And that is where I pick a stitch that is the one stitch I stitch on every evening when I'm watching TV. During the day, it could be anything I want. It could be 10 things that I want. But at night, it's going to be consistently one stitch. And I know many of you are saying, can't you make the trees the dedicated stitch? Or some people call that a focus project. That, I'm not sure focus is a word in my vocabulary, but the trees cannot be, at this moment in time, the dedicated stitch. I figured out that there were 4 projects in my whip pile that I was doing for specific people in my life, and so I wanted to make sure I met those 4 deadlines for the year. And so I met my first one. I cannot tell you. I want to call up my 2nd grade teacher and say, yeah, who you talking to? Who you talking about? Yeah, but, you know, that's a story for another day. Anyway, the dedicated stitch now is this one. And this is Janine McGowan's Blue Flower. This was a project that was for the 2022 Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit, Forest Home, and it's so reminded me of my older son, and I knew that I was going to have to do that for him this year. So dedicated stitch, here we come. I am moving along on this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if I had this done by the end of June, the way it's going. Of course, I have quite a busy time, and I know this is very, back to chapter 1. in June I'm going to the attic for the Bristol Sampler weekend, and I suspect I shall be enabled quite a bit. So there will be some disruption, but I really think that this will be finished at the end of June, and then I will only have 2 dedicated stitches left for this year, unless I start something new. I have got to finish this year my youngest grandson's Christmas stocking. Yeah, that's got to happen. That's got to happen. So I'm just looking around because I don't want to forget anything. Are you yelling at me? Did you remember what I forgot? Because you know you always forget something. I'm looking. Yeah. So I think that's it. I'm going to fly to Phoenix. It's going to be a little bit different because I'm going by myself. I'm looking forward to the experience of what that's like. You know, I tend to travel with girlfriends and or family, and this is like one of those moments where I have to put my big girl panties on and see what this feels like. Yeah. I know that I'm going to have a wonderful time. I am really, I mean, if you look at that, if you watch all those videos about, you know, especially, you know, Katie Strachan talking about the 56 count, oh, it's just so, it's like one of those, it's like what someone must feel like when they're about to go on the Big Dipper at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. It's humongous, it's wild, you want to do it, but you just want to pee your pants. 56 count, yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay. Thank you for hanging in there with me. You take care, have fun with your stitching, do it the way you want to do it, and you know I love you guys.